now we have Rahul Sharma with us, who will be moderating our next panel discussion. The panel discussion is titled as the Unschooling, the Future of Education. So for all those who don't know Rahul is working as a chief brand officer at Startupjobin and is a best-selling author of 10 children books, a certified creative writer, an award-winning marketer, and a public speaker. He has been also nominated for the highly coveted award, Rex Karavir Chakri Youth Fellowship for contribution in bringing positive change into the society in July 2020. He has also founded a book club that is Write With Us to inculcate writing and reading habits among the youth of the country. In addition to this, he is also the founder of the Phoenix Literature Festival and a visiting faculty to teach creative writing to schools, colleges, and various institutions and several NGOs. So, he is a highly experienced person. And in conversation with Rahul, we have Mr. Manish Jain, Dr. Dr. PK Vijayan, and Mr. Pankaj Pushkar. They will be talking about how this pandemic has affected the schooling of children and what comes along with it. So over to you, Rahul.
Thank you, Asmit. Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. Today's topic might be very different, unschooling, the future of education. Don't worry, we will make it easy. Education is very close to me because I love books. Let me start with our panelists. We have Manish Jain. Manish Jain is deeply committed to regenerating diverse local knowledge systems, cultural imagination, and intercultural dialogue. He has served for the past 20 years as the chief weaver of Shikshantar, the People's Institute for Rethinking Education and Development based in Udaipur, India. And is also co-founder of Swaraj University, the Jain University, Complexity University, Hunarshala, Tribal Youth Leadership Academy, the Creative Adda, the Learning Societies Unconference, the Walk Out, Walk On Network, Udaipur is a learning city. The Families Learning Together Network in India, Wakana Exchange. He co-launched the Global Ecoversities Alliance with 300 plus members in 40 countries. He's a senior advisor to Economic Happiness Network for Localization. Manish has been invited to give inspiring public keynotes on reimagining education in many countries like USA, England, Portugal, Brazil, Mexico, India. He has edited several books on Vimukta Shiksha, that is liberating learning. Prior to this, hold on, Manish has worked as one of the principal team members of the UNESCO Learning Without Frontiers Global Initiative in Paris headquarters. He has been a consultant to UNICEF, World Bank, USAID in Africa, South Asia, and former Soviet Union. He has worked as an investment banker with Morgan Stanley. He has been trying to unlearn, his master's degree in education from Harvard University and BA in economics, international development, and political philosophy from Brown University. Welcome, sir. Welcome to Phoenix LitFest. Our next panelist is Dr. Preem Kumar Vijayan. He did his MPhil in English from Delhi University and his PhD from International Institute of Social Studies in Hague, Netherlands. The degree was awarded in 2012. It has recently been published. He has recently published a book, Gender and Hindu Nationalism, Understanding Masculine Hegemony. Vijayan has written and published frequently on variety of issues, including caste inequality, the privatization of higher education, state violence, corruption, terrorism, sexuality in academic and lay journals and books. He is currently the head of English in Hindu College, Delhi University. Welcome, sir. Welcome, PK, sir, on the stage, the virtual stage, of course. Last but not the least, we have very humbled Pankaj Pushkarji, who was a very past assistant professor and past MLA Timarpur. More than that, he has been active in sharing the learning, on education, the real learning what we have forgotten. It's time to learn something. I welcome the stage to the panelists, Manish Jain, Preem Kumarji, and Pankaj Pushkarji.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to
Thank
be
you.
here. And
Thank you.
following us.
Great to see you, Rahul.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So my first question is, what is unschooling? You say the future of education. So if you can take the stage and elaborate, like I will go with the Manish, if you could.
Yeah, so great to be with everyone today. So for me, you know, unschooling has many different dimensions, but probably the initial one that is important is that we ask the learner, what are they interested in? What are they concerned about? What are they curious about? What do they dream of? Rather than having a ready-made syllabus to just dump on the head of the learner, we start with asking them. And then we recognize that each learner is unique and has their own learning process, learning styles, multiple intelligences, dreams, and experiences. And so we start to build with each of them a more customized program of learning, not a kind of one size fits all. We're not trying to make them into factory workers. We're trying to support them to become compassionate, free thinkers and creative thinkers. And last thing I would just say is that we want in the unschooling model, collaboration is probably one of the most important things. Collaboration, not competition. Today, if children are collaborating in the school, the teachers say they're cheating. It's called cheating in the school when children collaborate. So the idea is actually that we want the children to be able to collaborate across with the children, with other children, with adults in healthy relationships, and try to see that to face any problem in life, it's always better to do it together with people. It's better to do it in a collaborative mode. To be creative is also meaning to be collaborative. To be compassionate is also being collaborative. So this idea of working together, learning together is very important in the unschooling idea. And we need to come out of this whole competition, also labeling children, you know, as poor learners or weak students or shaitan bache or whatever those labels are. We need to let go of those and actually start to see the beauty in each human being. So I think this is where this starts to create the energy for a whole different kind of model to emerge. And that's what we've been working on for the last 20 years in India.
So I will, before I move to Pankaj sir, who is showcasing, just taking us to the unschooling project they have started, I would like to take a statement from Professor Preem Kumarji. Like, you are in Department of English in Hindu College. So you believe in competition or in collaboration, like as Manish mentioned, like Shaitan Bacha. And how do you feel like, okay, it's unschooling the trend, the need of the hour, or it's just a term like fast food society we are looking at? Do something different.
Thank you for the question, Rahul. And I think it was a pleasure listening to Mr. Jain. If I may call him Manish, I hope you won't object.
Yes, Manish is good. Manish is fine.
So I quite agree with everything that he has said. I am in a position where I actually receive the products of schooling in my care at the level of college. It's the sort of finished products that we receive. And I find that they are finished in more senses than one. You know, when by the time they come out of school and into college, they are finished with life itself, some of them. And it's a very sad situation then. You know, they want to, they treat their education as something compulsory, something obligatory, and would like to just be done with it. So I agree completely that this is a product, this is an effect of the kind of school system that we have, and we certainly need to unschool that, and we certainly need to have a different way of approaching especially school education. I've always maintained that school educators, teachers, school administrators have a much tougher job than the college professors and university professors, and we don't recognize that enough. They start. They have the job of molding very, very young minds, so their responsibility is much greater. And unfortunately, many of them are themselves trained within the system of schooling rather than unschooling. So they, communicate and reproduce the same systems that they have been through themselves. So I think when we look at school education, there is certainly a very, very urgent need to revisit the fundamentals, to re-explore and open out those questions again. We have to bring up our children in such a way that they ask questions. There's a very famous precept, from each according to his ability, to each according to his need. This, I think, is something that can be applied at the level of the school itself, and rightly, as Manish ji said, collaboration should be seen as something should be promoted rather than competition. And that, I think, will make a huge difference to the culture that we produce in our children, not just the education. I'll just stop here and we can discuss further later.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something, Rahul, I totally agree with what Professor Kumar is saying. I just wanted to add something that it's, one thing we need to also see is this. Many of us all already know that this modern factory school system was sent to us by the British. We have not done much in imposition. It's a tool for colonization and slavery, basically. And if we see the design of it, the design is the same as the factory system, the army system, and the prison system. We're working in the jail. If you walk in the jail and you look at the buildings and you look at the building of the school, they look the same. They feel very cold, very soulless, And so one thing you were saying is it's tough for the teachers. I think the design is so bad that it makes it difficult. Otherwise, working with children, I've been doing and you've been doing, students, is a complete joy. It's the highest thing you can do in the side. But when you're trying to force children to do something all the time, beating them, hurting them like a sheep, treating them like a machine, then it's going to be a difficult job, because you're not giving any space for their creativity, their free will, their imagination to flow, So
the emphasis is more on discipline than on liberation and flow, opening our mind, both in school and in college. So the focus more on.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Now let's move to Pankaj, sir. Yes, sir. So please unmute yourself.
Yeah. So just to add a little more color to what we are talking about, means I am on this site, means actual ground where means this schooling and beyond schooling, some sort of means deschooling is happening. So I am at this spot, means where the beautiful experiment Creativity Adda is going on in Delhi, in the heart of a city which is means known to be means very, I would say means very harsh towards the very tender feelings and the inner world of the children. So it is here in Mukherjee Nagar in the central Delhi, a school, a formal school, and within that school, the deschooling is happening. So as you can see, that means I'm moving, I'm walking, and this is a physical space within which an experiment of deschooling is going on. So what is that? I would rather introduce, I would rather talk a little, and I would walk a little more, and I would introduce you the idea as it's being means happening, as it's being put in the practice. So let's please bear with me a little noise coming from the activities, noise coming from the actual life, living children doing various things. So in fact, before that means I would also invoke some transcendence within all of my listeners and fellow panelists that there is a quote, there is a couplet in Hindi, beautiful Hindi, that please open your ear to multilinguality, and I'll read a couplet that had tape so aulia, had means limitation. Had tape so aulia, anhad tape so peer. Had anhad dono tape, wako naam fakir. So here means something well within Delhi, something happening which is beyond schooling, which is beyond a very bookish textbook style de-schooling, which is beyond what means Macaulay or William Wentic proposed in India, what is beyond what even Illich wrote in a kind of a textbook, kind of a magnum opus for all who believes in kind of a different kind of vision for the students, kids, the schooling society. So that hybridity, that a wonderful kind of an experiment, which is creativity at the physically locating within a school, but with the all spirit of the schooling. So that's what means had tapeso alia, beyond limit, beyond limitlessness, and something beyond it is happening there. So the schooling is the basically recognizing the fact that the child is at the center, and when we talk about child, child is not in a vacuum. Every child is with of full of means a lot of potential, a lot of experiences, learning from the context, learning from their family and neighborhood, and with so many skills, so many feelings and emotions, they are coming in any space. That space might be school or somewhere else. So what does school do with all those feelings, with all those learnings, with all those languages which a learner bring to a space? So schooling has become a kind of a metaphor for a space which does not acknowledge, which does not respect the inner world of the child. It just begins to impose. It becomes a kind of a very brutal exercise, a brutal vision in which the child is something, a kind of an empty vessel in which a proper knowledge has to be invested, has to be infected, has to be injected. While the very core idea of deschooling is just love the child, love the word which the child is bringing into this space. So now,
Pankaj sir, I just would like to know how Creative Vada is shaping the future education of children, like how you are giving them wings and freedom to the initiative. Like what are you doing? How you are taking that first step towards unschooling at Creative Vada? Could you just show us or tell us about it?
Okay.
That would be great.
Okay, so come to the actual activities. As I was showing to you, this is a space within creativity at the where means children are learning skating. The children are coming from the so-called most difficult social economic background, but they are full of wonderful potential, and with the help of a facilitator who is not a teacher, who is just a friend, who is just a helping hand. Excuse me for the noise and a lot of things. The idea is that everything is possible once means you begin to acknowledge the word of a child, right? Another creative space is this. This is Media Lab. It is a community media lab of creativity. Where means every child is producing something, learning something with the absence of any teacher. So it's just the inner call of a kid. If it is being facilitated by some loving environment, it can create miracle. It gives a different order of morale, a different order of self-confidence, and that self-styled learning.
If you could tell, they are, I feel they are editing some videos and audios, right?
Sorry?
They are working on editing some videos, right? the kids on workstations, they are working on editing some videos, right?
Yes, yes.
They are doing
great.
editing. Prior to that, they might be doing this videography, this photography of this very high class, which might be a shooting for wedding, that might be photography for flora and fauna. They are all done by kids. Kids who are supposed to be failure, but they are full of superb capacity and possibilities. So once that environment allow them to unfold at their own pace, with their own passion, just supporting it, just again.
And so, is there any age limit, like 5 years, 7 years, so up to 18 years? Age limit?
As you can see that this editing is being done by a kid who must be 11 or 12, right?
Oh my God.
What's your name?
Oh.
Rajat. Which class is your in? What is your age? Aapki age kya hai? Yeah, at 12 and 13, it can do editing of a professional style. So the idea is that what is schooling research and thought is.
And this is all like they are learning on their own, right?
It's that fundamental idea that child is the carrier of knowledge. So it is how that we can see the future of education, future of learning is core with the fundamental principle what makes the schooling talks about. So schooling and the entire schooling system, all of us who have been in schooling,
it's all free.
They need to learn.
It's all free. Just let me interrupt, Pankaj sir. It's all free, right?
Just to give you another little glimpse that there's a space where music is happening, where the all-time learning of with instrument, with vocal is going on. So it is how that we can unfold the potential within us. Yeah, please carry on.
So this is all completely free, no charges for kids.
Yes.
Learn the skill. Oh, this is incredible.
Yeah, I can add something, but he has been the Manish Bhai can add anything and
please,
it.
Yeah, I would just add that, these two things about it which are very different. So, these activities are might be looking familiar to some of the viewers, and they say, okay, this is happening in elite schools. So that's true. But these activities are happening every day, 3 to 4 hours a day. Children have freedom to do the things they're excited to do throughout the year. Even in the DPS or the other places, they are only given one period per week to do music or art or whatever. So daily this is happening, this freedom, this joy. Even the happiness curriculum, so-called happiness curriculum, is only 1 or 2 periods a week. So we said this is not sufficient. We need to. The other thing that is very important is this is not the same thing as vocational training. Vocational training, yes, all of these kids are skilled. There are boys who know how to make 100 recipes. They're chefs already, professional. There are guys who know how to edit the films. They know the skills. But we are also concerned with how their expression, how their leadership, how their creativity, how their compassion and care for each other, how their management skills, all of these things, how their marketing skills, all of these things should also be developed. Vocational education is another form of dumbing down people, trying to turn them into, very routinized workers. But what we're talking about with the skills, they also have to become leaders in their communities, in the society. And all of those other set of skills must be part of the learning process.
Sir, if I ask you a question like being a parent, okay, it's okay. Like my kid is owning a skill by investing 3 to 4 hours per day. What about academics? So let's move on to Preem Kumar. So what's your take if I ask you, enroll your kid into an academy or an schooling program of Manish Jain sir? So would you go for it, being a professor of like you have been educated all your life? So what's your take on it? as a parent, as
I think
an educator? Yes.
I think it's important to certainly ask this question about academics, partly because at the end of the day, these schools and this system that we are proposing as an alternative is they're unique. They are isolated experiments. When the kids come out, they have to get into this very competitive, very money-oriented, result-oriented system. So certainly, I would have a great deal of joy in receiving students like this. But what they will do and how they will perform in a system in which marks are very important, in a system in which your degree, your board, your performance, all these are counted as much more important than what is up here. This is a very, very important question. I think we need to reflect on this. Is there a possibility for bridging from that system to this system? Is there a possibility for expanding that so that that can be as much of a valid educational model in the universities, for the universities to give due credence and due respect to? When I get my students, one of the things that I always tell them is that I'm not here to teach you English literature. You can pick up a book, and that is true of just about any field of learning, especially in the humanities and social sciences. Perhaps not so much in the sciences where you have to do, practicals and you need to be trained with certain skills and so on. But in the humanities and social sciences, if you have a fairly good mind, you can pick up any book and train yourself. But my job, I see it as training the child to think, to use language, to use words, to use the power of articulation, to be able to think for themselves. So literature is just a means to be able to think for themselves. That is something that I would very much like to see coming out of the school system as well. And what I see before me that Pankaj and Manish are talking about certainly is a fantastic process of encouraging children to think for themselves. But from a systemic point of view, from a point of view of institutions, from a point of view of the larger educational apparatus, how do they see that transition happening? That is something I'm a little, baffled by.
Thank you, sir. As Swami Gandha mentioned very well, he said, education is a perfect manifestation of perfection already in the man. We all are perfect, but we need to discover that real education from within. So yes, Manish sir, if I want to take my kid to how I can unschool my kid, or unschool is all about unlearning, or it's all about something else. Like, what's your take on it? If as a parent, I want
to little gently push back a little on Professor Kumar. Since he is a professor of English literature, I'll refer him to this very, very famous story of the emperor has no clothes. And that, a little bit of more honesty of what's happening with the higher education system, the quality of students that are there, the quality of education, the crisis that we can say in higher education and in school education, whether it's a crisis of an unemployment, that the next 20 years, the government alone is saying 18 crore, 180 million unemployed educated youth who have no skill, no purpose in life, no capacity to really do all of the things that Professor Kumar is talking about. This crisis, I think we need to acknowledge it. The second crisis is there's a mental health epidemic in our country. Millions of youth, again, going into depression, either from being branded failure or the kind of depression and suicide you see in Kota, from being too much pressurized to over succeed. This mental health crisis, whether it's then people going into depression or whether the drug abuse problem amongst youth because they're not finding meaning and purpose in what they're studying and what they're doing in their lives. I think we need to take this crisis also and say that, the game is changing. And the third thing I would say, the third crisis is the environmental crisis, climate change, loss of biodiversity, that we cannot continue business as usual. So I would just say that, I'm open to hearing other ideas, but unfortunately, I don't hear any creative ideas from people working in academia about how to deal with these crises and what's happening in the education system. A little bit lipa poti here, there, we hear, but nothing is serious that's going to deal with the kind of magnitude of challenges that are facing us. So I would say that, this is a humble attempt to start to reimagine, to try to come out of the colonized mind. But unless we make such attempts, we reproducing the same old thing and pretending that everything is okay is not going to really work. And I think that, many of the kids in projects like Creativity Adda, or kids who have totally left school, the kids in the Adda are all going to school still. Many more. We have 10,000 children around the country who've left school, whose parents have taken them out of school, including my own daughter. She's never gone to school because they feel that school is not doing the very precise things that what Professor Kumar is doing. Rather, it's doing the opposite. It's dumbing children down. So I think that we need to take this much more seriously and not pretend that everything is okay and the country and the young people are all happy with what's happening. There's a serious crisis, and it's going to require a different kind of moral courage and leadership on our part to be able to really do justice to our young people today in the country.
Even Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore was against a traditional approach of education.
Yeah. Not only Tagore, Gandhiji, Tagore, Krishnamurti, Swami Vivekananda, Kabir, and we go all the way back to Eklavya. This is this unschooling idea is not a foreign idea. It's our roots. Eklavya was one of the first self-designed learners that is documented. I mean, we all have that capacity. We're all doing it. But the first, at least I've seen one of the first documented stories is Eklavya story. And Eklavya, the tragedy in our country is that people working in education feel that Eklavya was a victim, was a loser. But actually, the story of Eklavya is a hero. He is taking our idea of education to the highest levels. And we need to understand that. Then we can start to build our own systems of education, not this all the time copy-paste from the West system that we're adopting.
Before I move to Pankaj, just one line. Manish has converted Udaipur Jail into Udaipur Jail University. And
yes,
more such projects are on the line. And it's great to see. And one day I will definitely visit Udaipur and see the Swaraj University and Jail University, how it's working and what are the ways and how we can go to our root, like the real foundation of education or being a human, like how we can explore our infinite potentialities. Yes, sir. Now move to Pankaj, sir.
Yeah, in fact, I would add a fourth panelist in our discussion, and who is the probably most competent person to respond to the concern being aired by Professor Vijayan ji, Kuldeep Singh ji, principal of this wonderful school, who is the one of the most trusted and most respected principal of the mainstream schooling system of Delhi. So I would ask him, and I would introduce him, invite him to just make a 1-minute statement about how can this bridging is possible. Once the schooling system gives an opportunity to flower, to unfold something like creativity within the space and within the administrative setup of the school, how it is a kind of a savior of the schooling system. Otherwise, the schooling system has become so vulnerable from within that it cannot hold a brute auditing. It cannot be thoroughly transparent. It is so vulnerable from within. But so I invite Ms. Kuldeep Singh ji just to say about how creativity at that kind of thing helps schooling or helps children in schools. Kuldeep sir, please.
Yeah, very good evening to all of you. And basically, thank you for providing this opportunity. Once we talk about the creativity adda and the intervention like creativity adda, really, this has been a dream since years and centuries, just to find an annexation of formal education with the creativity activities. Basically, coexistence is the key of Indian civilization. So once we are having so many branches in education, we are trying to explore that particular natural element which is hidden among the students. So basically, the creativity is based on the ideas of the children. But this creativity adda does not stop up to the level of the creativity. It provides the platform to nourish this particular element into the innovations. So they are having the laboratories, they are having the workshops, they are having those all facilities for sports and other things. And the school system beautifully annexes with the holistic development of the child, with the creativity adda, by providing all the infrastructure, by providing all the facilities which are with the school, and we mutually exchange the facilities and experiences. And it is bringing all the children who are away from the school towards the school. This is the beauty. So actually, this particular endeavor is the major reform in terms of the society. Because you see, when we want to shape the value system, 21st century's value system, or the shared value system in our civilization, we need that at least the creativity of the children must be valued, must be respected. And I am very much confident that the laboratories and the workshop conducted by the creativity at the school in association with the same student, either they are studying in the school or they are away from the school, has created wonders. And I'm very much hopeful. We have given only 2-3 national champions, but in coming years, we will be giving so many scientists, poets, writers, filmmakers from this creativity at this school. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Probably there cannot be a more profound, more authentic testimony that bridging is not only possible, it is in fact almost life-saving. It is life-saving, especially for the schooling system, because the schooling system has consumed a huge resources of this nation. So in order to give it a legitimacy, in order to give it functionality, we need to give it life. So where does that life come from? That life comes from something like the idea of deschooling. So deschooling is not anti-schooling per se. It is just giving back breeding to the kids and so on.
Sir, we have just 5 minutes, so let's take a question from audience if we have.
Please do.
So we have 5 minutes, so I request audience, if you have any question, please, you can write on chat or you can just raise your hand. I will unmute you, and please, we have very luminaries from education. Please do share your question. Okay, Aditya has shared question already. Sir, the question is, if we want to go for unschooling, what is the way? How we can unschool our kids? The first step.
If I can answer, means I would say that stop teaching kids and stop learning and start learning. As parents, as education policy makers, as teachers, we need to start learning, and for learning, we need to start unlearning, unburdening ourselves, and it would be wonderful. So every space need to be means really modulated in a manner that means actual happening, actual instinct, passion, liking, love for anything can unfold itself. So start conversing, start exploring, means start watching good films, start singing good songs, which can give voice to your inner. That I would suggest. Yeah. Beginning a dialogue.
Yes, I request Manish, please. How this project unschooling is all about unlearning, right? It means to me, unlearning Rather learning new things, unlearn all the things which are not required, and you will be clear what you want to become, who you are, what's your purpose. This, it means to me, like over here, I unlearned a lot of things. So this is, I'm unlearning, maybe unschooling myself. So what's your take on it?
I'd say for, we actually talk about the first unschooling is needed for adults. The adults are the ones who have all the fears, anxieties,
Okay, so
always comparing their children, like, oh, look at Sharma ji's son, he's doing this, look at this, look at that. So all of these things we need to first work on ourselves. Start to see the beauty of your own child. Listen, try to create time to do things together, explore. Don't pressure all the time, and I had to go through this when I was growing up in school, all the time my parents pressuring me, study, pardo, pardo, pardo. Let go of that a little bit. Let them have time to do things that they enjoy. Take them out to different places to explore, meet different, I've taken my daughter, she's gone to tribal communities, she's met jail inmates, she's gone abroad, she's gone, to busties and met street children, all kind of diverse people. She's, we can have our children. She's worked she's done all kind of work. When she was 10 years old, she was working in a pani puri shop in our neighbor's place next door. She wanted to help there. She's worked in an animal shelter. She's worked in an art gallery. She's worked in a cafe. So this idea, we shouldn't be afraid of work. Work is a very good, powerful force for our learning, because we learn context, we learn relationships, we learn how to build our confidence and skills. So I think these are all things also to start to see. Even things like, with small story, I'll just say, when my wife's grandmother died, my daughter was the only child of her generation at the funeral. And I asked everyone, where's all your children? They said, Nini, 2 mahine baad exam hai, the children will get disturbed. But I think it's very important that our children be at funerals, be at weddings, all of these things, which now today, the system, there was another boy I knew, he was from Kerala. His grandmother was dying. The principal told him, you can't go, last month, you can't go and take care of your grandmother. I said, no, you have to unschool, go and spend your 1 month taking care of, do seva for your grandmother. This you'll remember for your lifetime. What you have on the marks or exam, that'll come and go in life. But these real experiences are what make us fully human. So this is the whole idea, that we need to reclaim all of these rich cultural spaces that we habitate.
Okay, thank you. I have a question. We have a question from the audience, so I just shoot it to Professor Preem Kumar sir. Our question is, unschooling or deschooling kind of going back to Vedic way of experiential learning, where students not only learn about academics, but also develop skills or spending more years out of home?
That's an interesting question. I won't comment so much on whether it's about going back to Vedic ways or going forward to Vedic ways or going sideways to Vedic ways. It's these are just labels at one level. But I think unschooling, certainly one important part of unschooling is actually to undo some of the prejudices that children come to school with. They sometimes come with religious prejudices, sometimes with caste prejudices, gender prejudices are rampant. Unschooling must involve actually teaching children how to live with each other and to make sure that these are removed from the child's way of thinking about things. And the second thing I wanted to say is that as far as the project of this kind of creativity at Dept project goes, it's very important to bear in mind that there is an economic, a financial side to these things, and whoever, as they say, whoever pays the piper calls the tune. So the people who pay for the education at one level are the ones who decide what kind of education is to be provided. So from an institutional point of view, again, I would maintain that there are many hurdles to cross yet. I see the beauty, I see the richness, and I see the necessity of the project itself, but I'm still concerned about how it can be translated into a more widespread kind of movement, as it were. Thank you very much,
sir.
all of you, for the question.
Thank you, Manish sir, for having here. Thank you, Preem Kumar sir. Thank you, Pankaj sir.
Thank you so much.
I had a great time. And I know it's time to unlearn.
Yes.
At first, we adults, we need to unlearn a lot of things. And when we are very clear, then we can help our kids or the upcoming generation how they can unlearn which are not required. So looking forward to again be a part of your Creative Adda, and we'll see how we can contribute, we can learn, and we can learn from the kids.
Rahul, we want to invite all the Toastmasters friends to Creativity Adda and also to the Udaipur Jail University. We would love to have you over to interact with all of our learners.
Sir, we will be there, sir. We will be there. I will bring our team to Delhi Creative Adda, and when we plan to Udaipur, we will definitely visit your jail university.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, just restating the invitation from Pankaj Pushkar, Creativity Adda, and also from Kuldeep sir, the principal, the most miraculous principal who just gave you the idea of how bridging is possible. Most welcome. All are most welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Definitely. Thank you. We had a great time. Now, due to paucity of time, we have to move to next session, and we have Asmi. Thank you, Preem sir, Manish sir, and Pankaj sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Guys, like it was an excellent gush of knowledge this conversation was. Like I really felt how insightful this all conversation went. Like it would be very insightful for the kids and parents as well, like who would have seen this like session. While apart from that, like I also want to bring into like into notice that like with all that controversy going on because of that Olympics in Tokyo, like that kids are not performing well in sports, while what we realize from this conversation is that they are like somehow forced to do things which they are not interested to do. So I feel like from this conversation, my takeaway would be like how self-discovery is the key route to every solution, like of what you talked about, like what works best for us, and that's what we need to find. So it was a great session. Thank you so much, our panelists. And Rahul, I would ask you to stay with us as we have another interesting session. Like